Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi out here in Northern California. Welcome to the Humble Bee Zentangle class. You might hear in my voice that I'm a little under the weather today, and I do apologize for the quality of my voice, but it will not affect the quality of our class today. We are going to have a lot of fun with this. So let's talk about the things that we're going to need for class today. You're going to want to work with a micron pen. I happen to have an O1 here, but you can use the PN pen as well. I have a white gel pen. I'm working with the Mizu Love, but you could use the Sakura pen if you want to. I have a gold Sakura for later on when we start to work around the gemstone. Graphite pencil and a blending stump. If you don't have a blending stump, you can always use just a little Q-tip. That's fine. You know me, I'm a Prismacolor girl, so grab your Prismacolor pencils or whatever color pencils you have. We'll make it work. And then finally, I am working on the Genesis tile from Tangled Yogi, and I love this paper because it's super smooth and receives color pencil really well. But if you don't have one of these tiles, you can always just make a square on your page that's 4.5 by 4.5 and just come along for the ride. All right, so let's get started with the Humble Bee Zentangle class. Now before we get started, I always like to do a little bit of a grounding exercise just so that I'm landing into my space. And you want to make sure that your space is really nice and quiet. So if there's a loud TV in the background, you can either close the door or turn it off. Maybe grab your favorite tea, something that's just going to sustain you during class, and make sure that your space is kind of a little sanctuary for yourself. Allow yourself to get comfortable in your chair. Let your feet touch down onto the floor. Soften your shoulders and let your hands rest into your lap. And just for a moment, allow your eyes to close and let your attention fall on your breath. And just feel your breath on the inhalation. And notice your breath on the exhalation. Slowly breathing in, gently exhaling out. And one more time, breathing in and slowly exhaling out. And as we rest here for this moment in quiet, I'd like to read a cute little quote about the honeybee. And it says, "Advice from the honeybee. Create a buzz, sip life's sweet moments, mind your own beeswax, work together, always find your way home, stick close to your honey, and be yourself." And just taking in a nice deep breath right here. Letting it go with a sigh. And then beginning to wiggle in your fingertips and your toes. And if you've closed your eyes, gently open your eyes by blinking them open. And let's get started with the Humble Bee. Okay, so we're going to begin. I have in my hand my graphite pencil, so go ahead and grab yours. And we're going to start by doing a dot in each corner here. And then we're going to start to connect. So we're setting up our border for our practice today. And I'm going to keep it in graphite here. Now, once I've got my border, in Zentangle we like to talk about breaking up the space in which we're working in. Sometimes if you look at a piece, it can be overwhelming and you don't know where to start doing your tangling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to that top line, come to the middle, and I'm going to divide the space. And then I'm going to go again and divide the space again. So you can see now that I've got 4 squares. And it's not perfect. We're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for a basic idea. Okay, so go ahead and do your 4 squares, and then when we come back, we're going to build up our string a little bit more. So I'm going to continue working with my graphite pencil here. And for our string today, we're going to have a circle in the center of the piece. And one of my favorite ways to do circles is to grab a coin and bring it into the piece and use it as my circle maker. And so I have a nickel in here, but if you have a small coin, you can just go ahead and trace it. And you can see that I'm just moving my hands around and just getting it so that my circle is now in the center of the piece here. Once I have that, I can start to build around the whole piece. So we're going to be working with a really fun tangle today, and this tangle is called Kahlua, and this is by Nina Dreyer Godhertz. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Nina. I love this tangle. It's super fun. And so what we're going to do with it is, all it is basically kind of a U with a flare. So it looks a little something like that, and then you're going to take those flares and bring them in, and then you're going to make a little tulip right on the top. And that is basically the tangle. So this is the fragment of it, but we're going to do the tangle. So we're going to come back to our piece here, and you can see that I have my guidelines on the piece, and I'm going to start right at about the halfway point between here and there, so you can see that I've kind of made a little dot. So what this is going to look like is I'm going to go ahead and make that U-like shape. And you can see that I'm still working with my graphite pencil here. I'm going to turn the tile and I'm going to do it again. So I'm just coming up to about the halfway point and making a soft U-like shape with a flare, doing it again. And then one more time right here. Now there's a reason for why I'm using the graphite. Later on we're going to come back in with our ink and we're going to do a lot of heavyweight lines, but I want to get the tangle down first. So we've got our tangle in here where we have the U's going all the way around. So I'm just going to come back to this top piece here and I'm going to start to bring those little outside edges back in. And then I'm going to put the little tulip on top. I'll go to the next one and I'll do the same. I'm just turning as I go. And last one right here. So there you can see when I zoom out that we've already got a really neat looking piece here. Go ahead and finish up yours, and then when we come back, we're going to add more to it. Okay, so now that we have those in, I'm going to turn my piece so that it looks like I'm working with a diamond here. And I'm going to come up into this corner right in here. You can see that I've got my 2 tulips that are pretty much lined up pretty well. Above each tulip tip, you can see I'm pointing to each of these. I'm going to do an arcing line that's going to come down and connect these. So what it's going to look like is I'm going to come up towards my border, and I'm going to make an arced line that's going to come down and join those two. Once I have that, I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to create that same shape that we've been building this whole time. So it's just that really neat tulip shape, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my tile clockwise and I'm going to do it again. So here I've got my 2 tulips. I'm going to do a curved line here and a curved line there. And then I'll arc in and I'll arc in, create the top of the tulip, just like so. Turning the tile, coming to the next one, curved line, nice arc, Nice arc. And then up, and there's the tulip. Going to the next one, same thing. Curved line, curved line, nice arc in, nice arc in, making the tulip top, and there you have it. So that when we come back to center, we've got this really beautiful tangle that's called Kahlua. Really, really fun. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to get our pens out. Okay, so I've picked up one of my favorite Tangle pens. This is the Apprentice pen, but you can use the Micron 01, you can use a PN, whatever your favorite Tangle pen is, you can go ahead and grab that. So I'm going to start just by inking in my circle in the center, and you're going to see me go pretty slow here. I like to take my time with circles. I think it really gives us away if we're rushing. And then I'm going to go into the inside of the circle now, and I'm going to do a very soft aura. Now you're going to see me really take my time with my aura here. So there's my aura. And then I'm going to start to ink in all of the smaller U's first. So you can see that I'm just going to do the small ones first. And this is where you can clean up your lines. And I'll just go around and ink mine in. Now, what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to start to bring a little bit of weight into them. So what this is going to look like is on the top pieces, we're going to come in and we're going to add a little bit of a weight line on either side. And then on this side right in here, we're going to add a little bit of a weight line as well. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to pool my ink into those to make them have a little bit more of a graphic feel. So I'm going to go around to each one of these and do that very same thing. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to work on those bigger tulips, okay? Okay, so you can see that I've had a chance to go all the way around and do that and add the weight to those. So let's focus upon the tulips that we've got up in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to connect once again. So I'm just going to come down and connect these. And you can see that I might be, changing things a little here and there just to make it a little bit more pleasing to my own taste. And you can do as you like to yours. We're going to do almost the same exact thing that we just did on our little tulip. So I am going to come back up in here and add a little weight line. And then I'm going to come over here and do the same. And I'll go ahead and I'll puddle. That just means I'm pooling ink into an area. Just like so. So we're going to do the same exact thing in all four corners. You go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. Okay, so once we have that, I'm going to start to bring in the element of the bees in here. So what this is going to look like is we're going to come in and you can see these spaces that I have in between the tulips here. And I'm going to start by making a nice orb in between each of the tulips. And I'm going to try to make each of the orbs about the same size. It doesn't have to be perfect. So it should look a little something like that. Now once we have that, we're going to start to bring the body of the bee into this. So I'm going to start right over here because I think this is a good place to begin. I always find that it's easier to draw down towards myself. So I want you to look at the tip of the smaller tulips here. And our bee wings are only going to go either to that or a little bit below it. You don't want them to drag down too much further. So what this is going to look like is we're going to make a V-like shape or a triangular-like shape depending on how your eye sees it. And it's just going to jump out like so. So you can see that it's pretty much lining up right where my tulips are. So I'm going to go all the way around and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to go 1 and 2. And there you have the beginning of our bees. So let's go ahead and come in right over here on the side of his head here. You can see that I'm right on the side and I'm just going to bow out and create a nice wing-like shape. Turning, coming out, and coming out, turning, and coming out, and last one right here. So that it really starts to begin to look like bees. All right, you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, we're going to have just a little minute to play with a tangle called Busy Bee. So many of you have heard me say that I have a Pinterest problem. And I love to look at Zentangles from people all over the world, and I come across really obscure ones on Pinterest. I think it's just a great site to find really neat tangles that you wouldn't normally find. So Busy Bee was created by Henriette Robin, and it's a really cute tangle. The way that she does it is she does 2 flux-like shapes, and then she has the head of the bee right here, and then she gives 2 little tipples on either side for his hands, and then she does the body, and she'll do another orb right behind it, or an aura, sorry, and then she does another aura behind that. And it's such a cute tangle, I thought, and I loved how she played with it. So she also took some orbs and ran it behind, and that is her version of Busy Bee. Now, I like to be a little bit more literal with my bees, so I'm going to do a version of Busy Bee that's a little bit different, but I thought you should be able to see what she created and know what the tangle was. So we're just doing a tangulation of Busy Bee. So I'm going to take this away, and we're going to come back to our bees here. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to bring in the body. And the body, I just want you to think of this as almost like looking like a flower. So we're just going to come up and create this cute little body on it. And then I'll go to the next one and I'll do the same. So I'm just coming up and creating this little flower-like shape. Super easy. Just a slight variation on what she's got going on. So once I have their bodies in there, I am going to create that little aura that she's got going around the back of it. So it'll go like this. It'll come up and over. And then I'm going to put orbs just like she did on mine. And you can see that my orbs are touching and that my orbs go right about to the wing of the bee here. So I'm going to go around to each of these and I'm going to do the aura that goes around it and with the little tipple that goes around it as well. Okay, so for this one I'll do the same thing just so that you can see it one more time. And then I'm going to do my orbs. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we are going to work on the body of the bee here. Let's continue to work into the body of the bee here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to zero in on this guy right here. I'm just going to turn it a little bit so that it's sideways. And I want you to think of little C curves coming towards the center here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by doing a set of C curves. So that'd be one stripe on my bee. And then here's the second set right here. Now when I puddle these in, I want to leave a little bit of white in towards the center here. And the reason for that is I want it to look like the bees have a little bit of light sheening off of them. And I just love the way that looks. It has just a fun feel to it. So one more time, just a C curve with an aura, and then a C curve with an aura. Coming in. Remember, the lighter you go with these pens when you're puddling, the more the ink will flow. And there you can see it really gives that a really nice sheen. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up mine. You go ahead and finish up yours. Now I want to bring a little bit of interest into the wing of my bee here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the wing and I'm going to do kind of like a little crazed line. Maybe you've seen in ceramics how they get those really beautiful kind of crackles. And I'm going to do the same thing for my bee lines. And so I'm just going in and adding a little bit of these little random lines. And I'm not taking too much time on it. I'm letting them be really random. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work in the smaller tulips. So I'm fascinated with Art Deco design. I think it's just beautiful. And one of the things that I came across the other day was this beautiful piece, and I saw these beautiful flowers and I thought, I don't think that's a tangle, but I think it might need to be. So we are going to learn how to draw this flower and put it into our piece. So I'm going to take this off to the side here and I'm going to grab a little bit of scratch paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to play with this in terms of shape. So for this flower, we're going to create a stem that comes up, and then it has kind of an opening here and drops down again. Now once I've got that, I'm going to start to bring in a really nice kind of soft leaf-like shape. And then I'm going to go ahead around that leaf-like shape again and give it a little bit of a pronounced feel. Now, I often think of the Tangle Showgirl whenever I see any kind of step downs on the side like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and create a little step down aura and a little step down aura. And then for the leaves, we're just going to go ahead and come up like a little C curve again and bring that right back in. And then another C curve over here and bring that right back in. And that's going to be the flower here that we're going to put into our smaller pieces. And if you want to, you could always add in an orb to the inside of it just to give it even more deco-ness to it. So let's take that off to the side and come back to these small little pieces here. So I'm going to take this over here, get that out of my way, and let's get this off to the side and come in towards the center. So I'm going to start by coming up, and I'm going to pause right when I get to this area right in here because we want to leave enough room for the flower. So I'm going to do a nice long stem, flaring out a little bit up at the top. I'm going to do that soft little leaf-like shape, and then a bigger one that's going to come up and out. And then in here, I'm going to do my step downs. And then I'm going to come in and start to create these really soft arc leaf-like shapes. Just like so. Let's try it again. So we're going to come in, come up, give a little flare, over and down, soft leaf-like shape, and then another one that's a little bit bigger. Step down on either side. And then once again, nice C-like shape. And another C shape. And that's really going to have a nice feel. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in both of these. You go ahead and do yours. Isn't that so fun? So for this next tangle that we're going to do, we're going to start to work in these outer areas in here. And many of you are familiar with the tangle printemps. So let's see here. And it's basically a spiral, okay? But because we're kind of working in an Art Deco idea here, I wanted to give this kind of a little bit of an Art Deco flair. So we're going to do kind of a triangularized, I don't know if that's a word, version of printemps or printemps, however you like to call it. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a line that goes up and out. It's going to drop in and start working in a triangular-like way. And then we're going to add a little bit of weight on the back side of it. So you can see that I'm just kind of coming in and adding a little weight into it. Super fun and super easy, and it really does give a neat Art Deco flair. So let's come back to our piece here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right underneath where the tulip is, so you can see that I'm just dropping down and just letting my pen touch down there. And I'm going to come up and over, create that triangular-like feel. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm just going to drop in, create that triangular-like feel. And I'll drop up a little bit. And now I'm going to put weight on the back sides of each of these. So you're going to see me come in and add the weight line. And then I'm going to puddle. Remember, the lighter you go, the more the ink flows. And you can see that gives this a really neat Art Deco feel in there. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. So go ahead and watch me if you missed it the first time. I'm coming in right underneath where the tulip is. I'm going to go up and over, start to create that little triangle-like effect. And I'm going to do it on the other side. And you can see I'm trying to make them about the same size, but they're not perfect. We're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for beautiful handmade creations. I had a wonderful student that used to say anything that was made by hand was made by heart, and I really love that. And I always say if I'm looking for perfection, I can always buy a shower curtain at Target because that's where they have all those geometric shower curtains. I'm not looking for perfection. So there you go. I've got these two pieces right here. Go ahead and finish up your last two, and then when we come back, we're going to do an aura. Okay. So before we do any kind of aura-ing, we are going to do just a little bit of a detail piece. Somebody did this in yesterday's class and I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to add it into my piece as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in right here where the tulip head is, and I'm just going to do a nice dot right here. That's about a medium-sized dot, and then I'm going to do a smaller dot and then a smaller dot coming out. And I just loved the way that that looked when one of my students did it, so I thought I would share it with you. Now, some of you may not have room for it, and you can see here I'm going to be a little hard pressed to get it in there. But I just thought that it gave this emanating energy that was coming away from the piece, and I just loved it. And one of the things that I love about Zentangle is that we always learn from each other, and everybody has their own experience with it. And once we have that experience, we can never go back. We're never the same person again. And I love that we learn from each other and gain a lot of wisdom from each other. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we'll go ahead and do that aura. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in right on the corner here, and I'm going to start to create an aura around the whole shape that we have here. And an aura is just what you think it is. It's an echo line. And you can see that I'm going to turn my tile and really get in there. And I really like to take my time with the aura because it kind of gives you away if you're going quickly. You can see that I'm just turning and going. And there you have it, a really nice aura line around the whole piece. Go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to add one more piece into our tulips. Okay, so we're going to add one last element into the corners here. And some of you may be familiar with the tangle called caviar. Let's see here, that's IAR. And caviar is a really fun one because it looks just like caviar, where you take a circle and then you puddle it in. Now for me, I always like to leave a little bit of a sheen in my caviar. And then you go ahead and you do a little aura around it. When I first got into Zentangle, I was obsessed with this, and it was in all of my tangles. It was crazy. But I really love it. Now for this particular piece, we're going to turn caviar into a flower. So you can see that I'm just going around the outside edge and doing these kind of puddled in little circles. And then I'm going to drop down, make a little stem, and then off of the side of each of these we're going to use fescue, which is another tangle. And fescue is just a line with a teardrop on the end of it. And so we get this really kind of unique flower in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off to the side, I'm going to come in right here, and I'm going to start by doing my circle first, and I'll leave a little white spot in there, and then I'll go around it, and then I'm going to come in and do my little flower, and then I'm going to come down and connect that flower to where the bee is, make a fescue right over here, and a fescue right over here. And you can see that it anchors that piece really nicely in the corner. You can see over here it's open, and over here it's got a little bit of drama to it. So I'll do it one more time. I'm going to come in, make my little circle, create a little place where there's some light, go around and do an aura, and then once again coming in and working my way around, drop down, make the flower, fescue here, and fescue there. Super fun. So go ahead and finish these two, and then when we come back, it's time for color. Okay, so here we go. We are in the thick of it. When you look at this, it has a lot of energy and a lot going on. But what I love about color is that you can use color to take a very busy piece and calm it right down. And so that's what we're going to do right here now. So I'm going to pick up 3 colors, and you can pick up colors that are either similar to these or dead on the same ones, and we're going to talk about this right now. So we're going to be using some colors here. So I have PC1002, PC1 18, and PC930. So the first one is the yellowed orange, the second one is the cadmium orange, and then the third one is magenta. Now the reason why I like this color combination together is because you get this kind of tropical sunset feel with these, which I think is really great. So if you don't have the same colors as these, what I'm looking for is a warm yellow, a warm orange, and a cold, cold red. Okay, that's really what I'm gearing towards. And don't worry if you don't have the same colors. If you have similar hues, you're going to be right on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by picking up the lightest color first. This is the PC1002. You want to make sure that you're good and sharpened up so that when you're doing your work, you can get into small spaces or into big spaces because the lead is nice and long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on one part of our piece today, and we are going to learn how to do the technique, and then you can do it all the way around. So I'm going to start with the lightest color first, and I'm going to start to work around the bee. Now my touch is really, really light. And the reason for that is because I don't want to put too much color down. I want to keep it nice and light. It's a foundational color. It's not the actual color that we're going for. So I'm just getting in here and working on that color. So you can see, because I'm working on the side of the pencil, it's not taking me very long to fill up the space. Okay? So once I have that, I'm going to pick up the orange color. I want to make sure that that's good and sharpened up too. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to dust in now the orange. Oops. You can see that the orange is not going to go past the tip of the wing. Once I get up and around like that, you're going to see me just pause here and pick up my magenta. Now the magenta, you want to make sure that's sharpened up as well, but we're going to do 2 techniques with the magenta here. So I'm going to come in and very softly. Each of these I've been going really, really soft with. We're doing a layering technique with these colors. And whenever you layer colors, you're going to get a much richer outcome than if you were just to lay the colors down flat. So I'm working all around the head of the bee here. And then I'm going to come up halfway. Now once I've got that magenta in there, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to start to press a little harder. This is where the drama comes in. Now once I have enough of that magenta in there, you're going to see me pick back up that original yellow. I'm going to come in and I'm going to go where the yellow and the orange are meeting. And I'm going to do these little circles. I'm going really lightly over this. And you can see that I'm starting to get a really nice blend of color. Now I'm going to come in and start to drag down into the magenta. And that's going to start to give a richness to that magenta color. But as I get down towards the bottom, I'm going to pause. Do the same thing on the other side, going where the yellow meets the orange. Getting that great foundation of color. And then dipping a little further into where the magenta is. Really getting a nice feel there. It's almost like a tequila sunrise. If you've ever seen those drinks, they're very pretty. Now I'm going to pick up my white pencil. This is the PC938. This is my kind of special little trick for working with these colors. I'm going to come into the top where the yellow is, and I'm going to start to blend in the yellow with a little bit of the white. And you'll notice that some of that scratchiness that was there is going to start to disappear. If you're working with paper that's got a lot of tooth to it, this can help blend your colors a little bit more. You're going to see me come in and I'm going to start to dip down into the orange. Notice how it's starting to get even more blended here. Now, I'm going to stop before I get down into the magenta, and the reason is if you add white to any kind of red, you're going to get pink. But I'm looking for something a little sharper here, so I'm not going to go down there. I'm going to come over to this side, do a little blending up at the top, and then come in over here and start to blend it out. And then as soon as I get down into the magenta, I'm going to stop. And you can see that this gives such a nice dramatic feel. And if you want to go in towards the top a little bit, you can go in there, just sharpen up your pencil and get those going. So go ahead and do that, and then when we come back, we're going to add a little bit more into the back of the bee. Okay, so I'm going to go into the back area of where the bee is here. And you can see that I'm using that lighter yellow. Just working around the back side of the bee. I'll pick up my orange here and start to bring that orange in. And then finally, I'm going to pick up a little bit of the magenta. Bring that in as well. I'm going to use a similar technique to what I just did on the outside. Starting to blend with that light yellow first. Getting that really nice heavy pop of color. Coming down into the magenta. Getting a little bit of warmth in there. Same thing over here. And then finally, I'm going to come in up at the top with a little bit of white. And blend the whole thing out. Noticing that I'm staying away from the magenta so that I get that really neat kind of sharp color. Isn't that so beautiful? I love working with color and I love layering it. So go ahead and work with yours. I'm going to work with mine and I'm going to go into all 4 areas where the bees are. So take your time with this and really enjoy what you're doing, okay? All right, have fun. So you can see that using just a little bit of color here can really make a huge difference in a very busy piece. So this color that we've just done has really taken it and given it a lot of gravity, don't you think? So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus in on our bees. So let's go ahead and focus in on this guy right here. And I've got that lighter yellow in my hand here. And I'm going to come in and just start to bring in a very light touch of yellow. And then I'm going to start to press a little bit harder and give a little shadow in here and a shadow on the side. And then you'll see me pick up a little bit of white and I'm going to blend that out. And you can see that because we've got that red and orange in there, it still makes the bee body kind of pop forward, which is really nice. So I'm going to go around to all my bees and do just that. So we're going to go ahead and carry this yellow color combination into another part of the piece. And this is just going to help our eye to kind of dance around it. I'm going to come into that beautiful deco flower that we had here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just coming into the center with that light yellow. Now once I've got that yellow in there, I'm going to go ahead and pick up some of that magenta and just dust it around the outside edge. And then I'll pick up a little bit of the orange and dust it up top. Now I'm going to come in and start to pick up that yellow and just use it to blur out the spaces between the orange and the magenta. I'm going to come into that outside area in here and I'm going to bring in a little bit of orange down towards the bottom. And then I'll pick up that magenta again and bring it up top. So we're just doing a little reversal of our shading in there. I'll pick up a little bit of that yellow and blur out my edges. And that's going to give this a really nice kind of feeling as we look around the piece. So I'm going to do that into all of my little deco flowers in there. You go ahead and do yours as well. Okay, so we're going to let go of the yellows and the warmer colors, and we're going to start to bring in some cooler colors. In my hand, I've got a really nice light blue. This is PC 992. And then I also have in my hand a nice navy blue color. This is PC 906. This is the Copenhagen blue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work with that lighter blue first. And remember, if you don't have the same color as me, don't worry about it. Just choose a color that's similar in hue. So I'm going to come into the area of the bee wing, and you're going to see me just dust the edge of the wing with a little bit of that light blue, trying to give it a little translucent feel to it. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my white, and you want to make sure that your white doesn't have any yellow on it because you'll pull green. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to soften it up a little bit. Little circles right where that blue is meeting the white. And you can see that that really gives a really nice feeling to the wing. So I'm going to go ahead and do all my wings just like that. So I'm really loving the way those are looking. Hope you do too. I'm going to come down here into where our triangulated printemps are. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to take that same color combination, the light blue and the dark blue, and we're going to start to bring some of that into printemps. So you can see that I'm just going to dust with that light blue first. And I'm just letting it go right through here. And then I'm stopping right before I get to the area where my aura is. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that darker blue. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this bad boy. And dust in a little bit of that darker blue. Not pressing hard because this is really, really heavily pigmented. And I'll probably stop right about there. I'm going to pick up that blue again, and I'm going to blur it out a little bit. You can see that I'm using probably a medium touch with that because I'm starting to get a little bit more of that vividness of that blue. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, and you want to make sure that that white doesn't have anything on it. And we're just going to blur out a little bit of that blue and a little bit in here as well. Now you'll notice that in the center I didn't bring any of that light blue in there. I'm going to bring the turquoise in because I want it to really have a little bit of a punch. So I'm going to do that in all of the triangles that I have going all the way around the piece. So you go ahead and do yours as well. So you can see how much that blue is starting to frame in the piece. Remember how busy this was when we first got started? And now it's really calmed down quite a bit because of the color. So let's go ahead and take that color combination and bring it in towards the center. I'm going to ask you to pick up your graphite pencil and a tortillon as well. Now if you don't have a tortillon, you can always use a Q-tip in lieu of that. So a tortillon is just a blending stump. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start by coming into the center. And I'm going to very, very lightly just dust that color right into the center. So we're really creating just a foundation of color. So that's just the first go round with this. I'm going to pick up my navy here. This is that Copenhagen blue. And I'm going to start to create a shadow right on the outside edge. And I'm keeping that shadow fairly light. Just a little bit so that I get a little contrast there. I'm going to come in and start to press a little bit heavier around the outside edge. Now once I have that, I'm going to pick up a little bit of my white and I'm going to start to blur these two into each other. So you can see that right where the turquoise is meeting that navy blue, I'm starting to do little circles and starting to blur it into each other. And I just love the way that that looks. Just gives it a real painterly-like quality. And I'm going to take that, I'm going to pick up a little bit of my turquoise again, just so that I get a little bit of vividness coming back in. You can see that I'm kind of running it over a little bit where that darker blue was. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow in here. And I'm just going to do just a little random hashing of yellow in here. I kind of wanted to give it like a labradorite feel. For those of you who love gemstones, labradorite kind of gets that little flash in it. I'll pick back up a little bit of my white, making sure that it's clean because I don't want to get it too green in here. And then I'll move away from the yellow and just kind of blend out into the blues. Now, here's where things are going to get a little interesting. I'm going to pick up my graphite pencil and I'm just going to do a dusting of graphite right along the edge. Once I have that, I'll pick up the tortillon, and I love this because it gives this really beautiful shadow. You can do this with the Q-tip too. Although these tortillons are really nice and they're very inexpensive. You can get a pack of like 12 of them for $2 at like Jerry's Artorama or wherever your local art store is. But look at how moody that stone is. Isn't that cool? So, you can play with this as much or as little as you like and just get it to the point that you really like it. Every time I come in and do a gemstone, they always come out a little bit differently. This one's really moody. I like it. I'm going to kind of close off the circle there a little bit with the gray. But when I zoom out, woo, doesn't that bring your eye into the center? So much fun. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to do one more thing with the blue, and then we're going to switch over into graphite. So to bring a little bit of interest right around the tulip in here, I'm just going to do a light dusting of that light aqua right around the tip of the flower here. And I'm going to go over to each one and just add a light shadow to it. Now, once I've got that little shadow in there, if I want to, I can always pick up a little bit of the white pencil and blur it out a little bit, just to get a little bit of softness from that so that the pencil doesn't have any kind of hard edge line on it. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to work with graphite. So before we get into using the graphite, I'm actually going to add just a touch of green before we get into the grays. So I happen to have in my hand the Kelly green, which is PC 1096. Now, if you don't have that color, spring green is a great alternative, or you could even use true green as an alternative. I'm also going to use grass green, which is PC 909. Now I'm just going to zoom in here and go right towards the stem of the flower that we were working with. And I'm just going to dust some of that Kelly green in there. This is the lighter of the two. And then at the bottom, I'm going to just use a little bit of darkness to ground it, and a little bit of darkness in here as well. Now, if you want, you can pick up a little bit of that white and just blur out the area between the two so that it fades into it really nicely. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we'll work with graphite. So let's start to add some graphite into this. I'm going to zoom in on our bee right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with this one first. I'm going to come in, I've got a regular graphite pencil in my hand here, and I'm going to do a soft dusting of graphite on the side of the bee head. I'm going to come in with the tortillon and do a little blend. And then I'll come in again and give it a little bit of darkness, just to get a nice shadow. You'll notice that I left a nice little area of white in here for a sheen. So I'm going to do that all the way around. So let me show you again. Just a light dusting. And a little bit of a heavier shadow. and then moving on to the next. So go ahead and finish up your two, and then when we come back, we're going to work with our petals. So we're going to bring in a little bit more to our petal right in here. I'm going to take a little bit of that graphite and dust a little bit around the perimeter of our flower here and up top. I'll take a little bit of the tortillon and do a little bit of shading. Same thing over here. Just a little shadow inside of the flower. It's going to make this a little bit more interesting, so that when I zoom out, you can see that that really gives that a little bit of a pop to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in all of mine, and you go ahead and do yours. You'll notice I'm leaving it light around the flower, just the darkness around the edge. Okay? Okay. So I really love the way that that graphite looks. Isn't that so pretty? It just gives that little bit to the center. So here's where things are going to start to get a little interesting. You could decide to stop right here and leave the piece as it is. Now, in my class that I taught yesterday, we have a green border that goes all the way around and has some wallpaper in it. So I wanted you to just take a moment to pause and just notice, do I like it the way that it is right now, or do I want to go and add in the border and really finish it off? So it's really up to you. I think the piece looks great either way, but I just wanted to give you that option before we carried on. Okay? So I'm going to take this piece away. And before we come in and do all of our highlights with the white gel pen, I'm just going to show you what I did with the border, and then we'll go from there. So I have my border still penciled into my piece here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come around and start to bring in my border. Now you'll notice there's places where the aura is present, and so you'll have to be really cautious about not going over where the aura is. So you'll have to lift up your pen and come out the other side. Turning the tile to make it work for your hands here. And getting right in there. You can see that I'm taking my time with this. Breathing. Relax your shoulders. So there's my border. Now I can pick up my green, and I'm just going to do a small section of this so that you can actually see what I'm up to, and then I'll leave you to it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to this corner right here. You can see that I've got that Kelly green in my hand again, PC1096, and I'm just going to do this section right in here. And you can see that I'm just dusting it into that corner. So I'm going to go all the way around the piece and do just that, where I'm going to bring that green in. Okay? So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to add a little bit of shading and a little bit of wallpaper to it. So I want to add a little bit of shading to give this a little bit of depth. So I'm actually pressing a little bit harder on that Kelly green. And you can see that I'm just staying really, really close to where my aura is. Now once I've had a chance to do that whole section, and I'm going to do it all the way around the piece, but I'm going to demo just around this section. I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick up that white again, and I'm just going to do little circles and blur in that color. And you can see that it softens it up and almost gives it a watercolor-like feel. If you want a little bit more watercolor-like feel in it, you can pick up a little bit of that yellow that we were using earlier and just randomly start to dust in a little bit of yellow. And it will make it look like a watercolor. So I'm going to go around my piece and I'm going to do just that in all 4 of those sections. Now this is starting to look really pretty. If you wanted to leave it just like this, you could. But if you wanted to add a little bit of texture into that background, I'm going to do a little bit of the printemps in here, the little spiral. And you can see that I'm working with the Kelly green here, and it's pretty well sharpened up. And really, the technique that we're doing is called wallpaper. And wallpaper is when you are tangling with the color that you're coloring with. Okay? And so all I'm doing is I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to do some really nice spirals in here. Now for me, when I'm doing printemps, I like to vary up the sizes of them to make it interesting. So some will be smaller and some will be larger. And I just think it makes it look more interesting when they're different. And you may find that you have to press a little bit harder to get it to get onto the page, but look at how interesting that is. It really gives this really gorgeous background. Now over here, it's a little bit harder to do printemps when you have this kind of narrowness, but I can make an echo of a printemps. And then I can do another one over here and make an echo going that way. So really interesting background in here. So I'll just go ahead and put them here, there, and everywhere, just trying to vary up the size of it. So go ahead and play, and then when we come back, we're going to start to do highlighting. Okay, so I'm going to pick up now my gold Jelly Roll pen. This is made by Sakura. This is part of their metallic line, and I love to add a little bit of gold into where my gemstones are. So I'm going to pick up the gold, and if you don't have gold, you could use a different color pen. You could use black around it if you wanted to. You know, don't feel like you have to be beholden to what I'm using. Just going to come in and go very, very lightly with this gold pen. Now, if you've got another brand of gold, like I love the Signo gold pens, those are great. The Pen Touch, those are also really nice. Sparkle Pop makes a really great gold pen that you could play with. The Faber-Castell line, the Pitt pens, they have a gold that's really nice. So there's not just one gold pen, there's many. This is just the one that I happen to have on hand. So you can see that I'm just adding that gold right into that center area, and it's just going to give this a really nice metallic feel around the gemstone. So that when I lift it up, you can see it just gives a little bit of shimmer there, which is really nice. So go ahead and do yours, and when we come back, we're going to start to work with the white pen. Okay, so I've picked up my white pen here. This is the Mizu Love that I have, but you could use the Signo Uniball pen. You could be using the Sakura pen. Any of the white pens are great. Even a Posca pen would be a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit of a light shimmer into the piece here, and I'm going to get this pen started. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by creating a little bit of an arc first, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of a fescue, and then I'll come in and add a couple of dots. And you can already see how that's given this a little bit of interest. I'm going to do a similar thing on the head of the bees. So I'm just going to go around and try to get that started. Sometimes these pens can be cantankerous. The lighter you go, the more the ink will flow. And if you have an older pen, it may be a little bit more difficult. So really, when these pens do get older, you want to kind of get rid of them and get a newer pen, or at least take extra special care of your pen. Nice trick that I found is just getting it started on your finger. For some reason, these pens love skin, so they get started fairly easily. Another place that you can add a little bit of light is inside of the area down here. So I'm just going to get that started and give it a dot. Get that started and give it a dot. You can go around and add that into there. Just gives it a little bit of interest. Going all the way around. And then I'm coming into where caviar is, and if you don't have one of these white pens, you don't have to worry about it, but I like to just add a little bit of definition to that little white area. And so when I zoom out, now you can see that a little bit of those light dots make a big difference. Now I'm going to pick up my black pen one last time here. And I'm going to come into the area where I have my tulips. And you can see where right in here, if I've got any spaces where I need to clean those little black lines up, I can clean those little black dots up and get them really nice and defined. And this is also a time where I can go in and clean up any lines that may have gotten lost with color. And that type of thing. Okay. If you happen to be working on tan or gray paper, you can come into the area around where your bees, where we've got the little orbs, and you can add white into those as well. Okay. All right, so go ahead and do that. And then when we come back, we're going to do some final touch-ups. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about where this is right now. And I think I'm going to add my chop into the piece here. Your chop is your initial, and that's just your way of saying that you've completed the piece and that you're moving on. And so I just want to take a moment to enjoy what we've created here. This is a really fun class for me. I really enjoyed it, and I love working with bees. Bees are a wonderful symbol of enjoying the little things in life. They make us pay attention to the beauty around us, and I hope that you enjoyed it too. You can see in my original piece I actually did it on gray paper, and so there's a difference between the two. The white is a little bit more vivid and bombastic, and the gray paper is a little bit more soft and subtle. So there's really kind of both ways to look at it, which I think is really fun. So if you enjoyed today's class, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up or leave us a nice review. Even better, you can hit the subscribe button, and then that way, every time I add a class, you will be notified about when I add it, and then you can practice more Zentangle with color. Well, that's it for me. I'm Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi. Thanks so much for joining us today for the Humble Bee class. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.